Jordan, I told you that I am going to storm into the I am going to storm into the In-N-Out Burger in Manteca, California, and I'm going to eat until I have the meat farts. And that's what's going to happen on Thursday afternoon Pacific Standard Time. I can't give you an exact time, but I know that it's going to happen.
The In and Out love is real. I guess I'm spoiled because we have it here, so I'm not gonna storm in there. I imagine you being angry when you do it too. When you said it, like you're gonna like get out of the yeah, you're gonna get out of the car like all
I just
pissed
say
off and like slam the door.
I'll probably not even get out of my car. I'm just going to go through the drive-through and be
What do you
very
get?
polite to people.
What do you get at In and Out?
Just like the double cheeseburger. Nothing crazy.
Oh,
Here's my thing. So we have something, it doesn't have the drive-through and everything like that, but we have something comparable here called Five Guys. Okay. Five Guys is delicious.
we have Five Guys here.
We have
Yeah.
Five Guys? Oh, I didn't
Yeah.
know it was nationwide. I thought it was an East Coast thing.
I don't think
But
it's as good as the old In and Out, but
I don't think so either. And it's also far more expensive.
it's
So
very expensive.
the reason that I like In-N-Out Burger so much is because it's good. It's I would say superior to Five Guys, and it's cheap. So I have this fascination of like this place is awesome. And so every time I go to California to hunt turkeys, I stop twice. I stop on the way to Leanne's and I stop on the way back and make sure that I stuff my guts full of greasy meat.
Yeah, it's like a cult kind of thing. The old In and Out. You know they have like it's not really secret, but they have like the secret menu.
I didn't know anything about this.
Oh, well, you're just gonna be so excited. It's on their website. It used to not be though, but you can order these things like animal style fries. They have hot peppers you can get. You can get them like grilled.
Oh, really?
The hot peppers is recent. They're good though. I haven't had In and Out in like probably 6 months.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you're bored, there's a secret menu.
I'll check it out. Yeah,
They
I
give
gotta.
kids hot chocolate for free on rainy days.
That's probably not super frequent in Manteca, California, although it
Not
is.
frequent here.
Yeah, well, there's desert that stretches pretty far through all of that. So, uh, it's what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we got to stop there, and I'm gonna stop at Bass Pro on the way out. So I have this like weird fear, and it happens every time I go to California because their firearms and ammunition laws are so weird that like I'm always scared that they're gonna like take my ammo at the airport or something like that, you know? And then like if they do that, like I can't hunt, you know? So I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna put some of it in my gun case. I'm gonna put some of it in my other check bag. So I just like have it in different places. So it's like I don't know, man. Just California creeps me out with some of their laws. So
Yeah, and in traveling, you have to have like your firearm and ammunition in separate compartments and stuff.
no, you can put it in the same thing.
Really?
Yeah, you can
Unless it's
fly with it.
changed.
You can
No,
fly
I
with it
mean
in
when
your
you're
case.
driving. When you're driving.
Oh, sure. But Maryland's the same way
Yeah,
as
that's not surprising.
Maryland is like
Very
you have,
populous.
and I mean, but Pennsylvania and Virginia are not are near they're like about the same, but like you have to have your gun locked, you have to have ammunition in separate places. Like
Yeah.
it's just a I don't know.
In Nevada, you just can't have one in the hole.
And that's all it is. And
You can have the magazine full, like even
you
on a shotgun or something.
you can't have them. You can't have anything. You can
You
have the
just can't
magazine in
have
your gun in
anything in
Pennsylvania.
the chamber.
See, I like that. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't do that, but
Wyoming's just like just don't shoot when the car's moving.
yeah, you can't shoot from the car in Nevada still. When I did
you
my hunter's safety, there was a guy that had to do it again because he got in trouble for shooting from a vehicle. And then they made him stand up in front of the class and say why he was there.
oh my god,
And there's all these like little kids, and they're like, what a fucking loser. Didn't you read that? That's like on page 2, you dumbass.
dude,
Uh,
but like from what I remember in Wyoming, and I could be wrong, and this could have changed. So if you're from Wyoming and you're listening to this and correct me, I understand that's fine. But I remember the last time I was there, you could shoot across the car. You just couldn't be inside of it. Like, you
I
could
don't,
be.
yeah, I don't know the specifics of because I've just never come close to like shooting from a vehicle, so I don't know if you can shoot across it in Nevada or not.
Yeah. I mean,
Safe bet to just
I was gonna
say
say
don't. You can't
default
shoot.
not.
They don't want you shooting over roads. Okay. Those are the main takeaways, really.
Yeah, which fair enough,
Yeah.
fair enough. Um, but yeah, so that's, but I don't know. I was saying about because we got to stop at Bass Pro and just make sure we're all dialed in and everything. If there's anything,
That's a
I just
big
like
one.
stopping. It is big.
They like
Yeah,
sell boats at that one.
that's a big one there. You been to that one?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Manteca. I've been to Manteca a few times. I was
Yeah.
actually there last year, but for a different reason. We went to this water park place with my kid.
Oh, cool.
She wants to go back because she loved it.
There you go.
But
So
yeah,
you, how
they
did
have a
you
big
get
one.
there? You had to have
Manteca.
driven, you had to have,
Yeah.
oh, you drove 80 to Sacramento and then went south.
I think yeah, for that one
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um,
It's not that far. It's
no,
just
but I was just
it's
thinking
just
like Leanne's is on the way, but you probably just went straight across and then straight south. So
yeah, it would be because are they south of Manteca?
they're east.
East.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
east.
Yeah, somewhere
Maybe
down there
slightly
and
north.
somewhere down there in the wine country.
Mm, yes.
It's all wine country through there.
I like wine country. It's
I
pretty.
mean, it's cool.
It's pretty. I just think it's
It's
pretty.
very strange. It's like very expansive, but you also can't see shit.
Yeah.
Which for me, I'm usually like, can't see that far. I don't fucking know about this.
Which is way different because you can't see shit here. Like you
Yeah.
can't see far at all. So
Nah.
yeah. That's the one thing that, well, not the one thing, but one of the things that I just was like, when I first started coming west to hunt, I was like, because here you always have a marker to like estimate some kind of range and figure something out. And being out there, I was just like, I have no idea how far away anything is. Like,
Like, how
I
far?
can't.
Oh, 800 yards? All
Yeah,
right. Never mind.
that looks closer.
I thought it was like two. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but that's I don't know. I like wine country. I've been there a few times.
Yeah, I'm not a wine drinker, so
I'm not
it's just
anymore.
it's not for me.
I just think it's pretty. I just like going there. So
I see there's a picture of a wine bottle behind you on the wall.
don't
So,
worry about that.
oh, then there you moved your head and there's like
Says-
something that says Cabernet.
Don't worry about that.
Welcome to Fancy Todd Studio.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'm
Which
not
happens,
sophisticated enough, so
right? I don't think it's sophistication. I think
oh, I
it's,
totally think it is, and I think that's why I don't like wine.
well, it's not why I like wine. I don't like being around people that think they're sophisticated. They annoy the fucking shit out of me. So
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. No, like my wife likes it, but I can't. I revisit every once in a while and I'm like, I get why they spit it out at a wine tasting. That's the only part I understand. Like when I drink it, I just want to do that little kid like spit right back. Like cup your hand and let me spit it into that. That's the spit that I want to do.
Fair enough, man. It's not for everybody. It's
No.
not for everybody. Now I want to talk about all or nothing thinking today because I think it's a problem that I'd say most people face in some respects of their lives, but a lot of times when it comes to training and nutrition. And, I made a post in the group forum the other day about it because I just think with everything that people have going on, it's so easy to look at, I guess, have a misappropriated definition of what success looks like from a day-to-day perspective. And I think that that's where we get caught up with all or nothing thinking. And I guess maybe I'll just start with a definition for anybody that might not know what it is. It's essentially black or white thinking. Like in your head, it sounds like, well, if I can't get this whole workout in, it's not worth it to do anything. Or, I already started eating like shit today. So what's the sense in stopping now? And so there's no gray area. It's either good or bad, black or white. It's that kind of thinking. And it really can derail people and mess up their progress and keep them from making progress because it just kind of stops them in their tracks and keeps them from doing anything when doing something could really start to move them forward. So that's what I want to go with today. I don't know where you want to jump in with that, Jordan, but I'm sure that you have some insightful thoughts.
I don't know that I'm that insightful, but I do agree. I think it applies to most people, and I think that people look at getting to this place of whatever they want to be, whether it's fitness, nutrition, whatever, they have this kind of place they want to be, and they don't really have like a defined path there. They're just like, either I'm working out and eating healthy and I look how I want to look, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's kind of this like impenetrable sphere of them getting to that place, because they want to be at this place like all at the same time with everything.
Right.
And if you're trying to change behaviors, like, well, that's pretty hard to change like a bunch of behaviors and stuff all at one time. And I think it applies just in, I think there's barriers to entry to everything when we want to take on something new or whatever. And I think probably most people experience something like that at some point in their life, where they never start because it just seems like a huge undertaking, or they're not going to be where they want to be fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Barriers to entry, without a doubt, are true. Because I mean, I think people look at, and I think that you said it, and I'll try to summarize, is that people look at outcomes instead of processes, and they
For
don't,
sure.
and that the achieving of that outcome, looking at that outcome, seems so big and so daunting that it's really hard for people to get started. And it certainly plagues everybody, and that's kind of the, if I can't have it all now, like, I don't want to do it type thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's also just looking at the work that's in front of you, and kind of figuring out how to approach it, because, well, a number of years ago, we started Strength Faction. So we started Strength Faction in 2015. I don't really have much to do with the day-to-day of it anymore, but it's a mentorship and coaching program for personal trainers. And so when we first really got started, we realized the biggest problem that people had, of course, there's like knowledge gaps when it comes to programming and coaching and different things like that, how to manage your clients and people and relationships and all of those kind of things. But what we saw as really the biggest gap was self-management. People just didn't know how to look at a day and where to put their energies and how to appropriate their priorities. And so, for example, there was I remember this one lady. She was relatively new to being a personal trainer. She had just moved to New York City from some island, I don't remember exactly where. And she was looking at her day, and she was just trying to stack her day with clients. And fair enough, New York City is expensive. You're trying to build a career. Like, I totally get it. But she would sit there and she would get into the all or nothing thinking trap. And she would say, well, I don't have time to do this entire workout right now, so there's no sense in doing anything. And so I wrote this lesson for them called breaking the spreadsheet paradigm, because back at this time, apps were just starting to get going. Like, people weren't using training apps as much, so we delivered our training programs to that group via a spreadsheet. And so people get locked into this thinking that I have to get through the entire spreadsheet or it's not worth it to do anything. And so, via the interplay with her, I wrote out this lesson of like, look at the component parts of a training session. So you have the warm up. Let's say it's just a regular strength day. You have the warm up, you have power training, you have your strength training, and you have some assistance training at the end. And so, well, how much time do each of those things take? Warming up takes maybe 10 minutes. Power takes maybe 10 minutes. Strength makes, depending on the type of workout, maybe 20 to 30. And then your assistance, maybe 10 to 15, something like that, right? So if you don't have an hour and 10 minutes to sit and do that, for sure, like, it feels daunting. But like, then you look at the constituent parts and say, well, where do you have time throughout the day? And what is the most, meaningful thing for you to do right now? Or what's going to be the most impactful? And so we went through, it was like, well, you know, you have a 15-minute break between your first two clients. Do the mobility stuff from the warm up, right? You have action. Then you got a lunch break. Oh man, you can do something quick just to get your heart rate back up, maybe 5 minutes. And then you can do your power and your strength training. And then you still have enough time to eat, relax a little bit, and then go. And then, okay, you have, a handful of clients in the afternoon, and then you have a break, and then you can do your assistance training. So if you sit back and you just kind of reframe it and look at it from the perspective of like, what time do I have and how can I use it and how do I redefine success, then you can do something to keep the momentum going. But I think that people's definition of success, even on a daily basis, keeps them from doing those small actions where it's like, maybe our training that day calls for 45 minutes of some kind of zone 2 or a ruck or something like that. And you're like, well, today I don't have 45 minutes. I have 20. So what's the point? It's like, well, you got 20 minutes. Use that 20 minutes and redefine your success as making sure that the box gets checked and you continue your momentum,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with. I always say, like, we say a little bit all the time, or some is more than none. In our small little house here. But I think that style of thinking is good because you're recognizing the continuum that you're on. It's
Right.
not like you're saying you either check the box or you don't. You're always on a continuum. And then when you get outside that, there's all these other things on that continuum too. It's not just, it's the only thing I have to do today, train or work or whatever. Like, there's all these things on this continuum, and you have so many eggs to put in each of the baskets. But the other thing I think is, a lot of times this stuff is viewed as just like hard shit. If you're not where you want to be, it's really hard to eat well, or it's really hard to train, to make time for training, which I agree it is, but it's also not really giving it the credit of like, this is a good thing. Like, oh, this would be good if I can squeeze this 5-minute warm up in. This is good. If you're looking at it as all good, stacking it toward what you want, like a little more good. If you only got time for a little bit of good, just okay, that's all you got time for. But like, a little bit of good is, it's better than none.
Yeah. For sure. Yes. The a little bit all the time is what gets it done. Cause it's the accumulation that really gives you the results and moves you forward. So, anything is going to be better than nothing. And otherwise you look at, showing up every day and doing, even if you only have 20 minutes, which I think, and I think one of the other things too is like breaking down what you're actually doing with your time too, where people get into these all or nothing things where it's like breaking down what you're doing with your time and really being honest with yourself. Like, well, you say you only have 20 minutes and I'm not trying to dad everybody here, but just in consideration, you say you only have 20 minutes today. Well, how much time did you spend on Instagram?
Yeah.
What did you do with your other time? How much time did you spend watching TV? How much time did you spend doing things that don't actually contribute to you moving yourself, your family, or anybody else forward, And so if we're honest with ourselves about those kind of questions, you probably have more time than you think you do. And then you just have to take a step back and look at your priorities, but I think it's really, let's say that it's true that there's only 20 minutes. It's like, well, that consistency and defining success as doing a little bit all the time rather than feeling like you have to do it all the time is what's going to move you forward. And I think that for a lot of people, it's a tough mindset shift to make because there's a belief or there's a fear that if you don't do it perfectly and you don't do it like that all the time, that you won't move yourself forward. And it's like, well, doing nothing ensures that you won't move yourself forward. Pretty much just nails that right in the coffin.
Yeah, man, I talked to somebody at work and then she was talking about losing weight. And I was like, she was telling me about what she did before. And she was like, I was eating 1,000 calories a day, blah, 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 blah. And I lost weight really fast that way, but then I gained it back. And I was like, well, that's because 1,000 calories is like starving yourself. So you were really hungry when you stopped and then you really wanted to eat. I'm like, why don't you just try something more mild where you just lose a little bit of weight? And I was like, there's, you know, 52 weeks in the year. And she's like, well, a pound a week or whatever is too slow, too
Too
slow.
slow for what?
And I was like, well, like, so you're gonna do nothing or you're gonna like crash diet, like basically. She was like, oh, it's too slow. I'm like, so you're just saying I won't do anything if I can't do this fast. So that's my excuse is it's too hard. It's it's gonna take too long, so I'm just not gonna do it. And it's like that's not actually how it works. Like there's a continuum all the time. Like you could
Mhm.
be a little bit better all the time. It's not just you got to blitz to get to this place where you want to get pronto, or it's not worth doing. Because when the next year comes around and you're like, well, fuck, I could have done that. I had a lot of time. And it's like I think everybody's probably like I've been there where I'm like, shit, it's been a year or whatever, and I want to get to a lighter body weight a little bit, and it's like fucking I could have done that so easy over a year, you know. And it's like, okay, well, maybe set it up that way that you're just gonna do it really incrementally and life is good. And but you
Yeah.
have to continue to measure progress and count that little bit as like a win. That
Yeah.
little tiny bit is always a win.
I think we talk a lot about, and I don't remember exactly where we learned this from, but you know, at the gym, Chris and I talk about making chains, and that is just such a pivotal thing for helping people with momentum and also defeating all or nothing thinking. And things like this come from, maybe we got it from BJ Fogg. We've talked about BJ Fogg on here before.
Yeah.
He's like the godfather of like a lot of the modern behavior change stuff. But defining success is something that is easy for you to do and then build momentum and then make sure you mark it. So one of the things that helps is, let's say we got that 20 minutes and you make your commitment small and you say, well, I can set aside 20 minutes every day to do something to improve my body, whether that's mobility, whether it's a ruck, whether it's I got 20 minutes to do some strength training, whatever it is. And then every day that you hit that 20 minutes, you mark it. You have a calendar and you
Mm-hmm.
make your chain, because the chain starts to show you positive reinforcement, like, hey, you're doing the thing. So you get that. But then also, you don't want to break the chain. And so you have it coming at you from both ends that, like, hey, I'm moving myself forward and I don't want to stop that momentum.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing, dude, is like just is really shrinking the change and saying, success is not this super duper lofty thing, but it's this thing that I can manage to do every day. And just it's so weird because it almost feels like people have to have faith in it. They have to have faith that doing these small things are going to
I
work because they don't believe it yet,
I agree. I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah. I don't know. And one of the questions that, especially when I went through the PN certification a long time ago, and you have to be careful with your tone when you ask this question because you can come off sounding like a really big smart ass. But when people say about stuff like that, like kind of the all or nothing stuff, like, well, or saying like, crash dieting and then, going back the other direction, it's like, well, I mean, how did that work for you? And it puts
Yeah.
into like, you have to be real with yourself at that point. What didn't fucking work. So um but I think the shift in mindset is one of the toughest things to do um when it comes to shrinking the change and realizing that the all or nothing stuff isn't doing what you want for you. And I really think that there's been, man, a bunch of different psychologists that talk about this, but the one of the easiest ways to start to give yourself some objectivity and step aside from it is to like think about what advice would you give to your friend? What would you tell?
Yeah.
You typically say, well, something's better than nothing, right? You know, and like starting to deal with yourself as if you're somebody that you're friends with or trying to help or take care of, and what advice would you give them? And that's typically a pretty good place to start, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because that's without all the internal goings on. It's just like, what's your problem? What's this? What should I do? And you're like, oh, you should probably do this. It's like, well, but there's this and this. I'm like, well, you just asked me what I should do, and you told me, so this is what I think you should do.
Yeah.
But I think your point about marking things down is huge too.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if people understand how powerful that is. What you're talking, I have the chain reference to is that's awesome. I've never heard that. Um, but you talking about objectivity, and you have all this stuff written down about where you are or whatever, and you could see it versus somebody's, well, I think I was really healthy when I was doing X, Y, or Z. If you don't have anything like other than your weight written down, um it's hard to say what those parameters were. You're talking about like a feeling or something, but if you had everything written down, and it helps too when people look back, if you're kind of stalled out on something, you're like, well, look where I started and look where I am today. And even if things are moving slow, I'm still however many pounds lighter, or I'm this much stronger or whatever than when I started, even if I'm not feeling fantastic about myself today.
Yeah.
It gives you a pretty awesome reference point.
Absolutely. And you know, there's this guy, maybe you've heard of him. He's done a fair amount of work with Dan John. His name's Josh Hillis. Um, Pretty smart dude. And he and Dan John did a book called Fat Loss Starts on Monday. And I think his one book is called Lean and Strong. And it's mostly geared towards women, but it's really good. And he talks about, and this isn't news, but he does a very good job of it, of like acting on values. Like you act on your values, not on some other external information or on motivation, where it's like you get up and, you know, you set these kind of values for you, like for yourself, like based on what is meaningful and the type of person you want to be. And one of the things that helps is using your example of a little bit all the time. And you make a statement, something like, well, I'm the type of person that does a little bit all the time because I value forward momentum. And having those things defined and ready for yourself makes it easier to say, well, the all or nothing stuff isn't going to beat you because you're the type of person that does a little bit all the time, and defining what is meaningful and then looking to where that might take you. You know, where for us, our main thing is to help people enjoy the outdoors and enjoy hunting for as long as we possibly can by making sure that their bodies are physically capable to do it. And so if you project yourself forward into time based on that, and say you're 75 or 80 years old, well, if is 75 or 80-year-old you going to be able to do anything if you don't do anything right now? You know, and even if that's the 20 minutes that you can commit to, and if you can do that consistently, the weird thing is you start to find all this more time. Like the time just shows up for one thing.
How much you can do
Yeah.
with 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Like you get a lot of shit done.
You can do a ton with it, but it's just interesting, like how you, once you start to commit to these things and commit to these values, how much time just shows up for you. And then, but then also like, there's a better chance of you being that 75-year-old or 80-year-old version of yourself that is still hunting chuckers or hunting turkeys or walking through the mountains or whatever it is that you want to do.
I think that's huge. Looking at the end of your life and where you want to be or where you want to go. And no matter how you feel about it, you're on that path right now. Like you're on that ride and the clock is ticking, whether you like it or it doesn't matter how you feel about it. Like that's the truth. You know, you're counting down. So like for me, that's a huge motivator.
Yeah.
Personally. And then I know not everybody feels that way, and that's why it's important to figure out what's important to you. But
But what if
I
they
don't want to
did?
be,
I think everybody would have a little
I
bit
mean,
better, would be a little happier, would do a little bit more if they were like
I don't
if
want to be
they
old and sick.
old and sick and realize that the
You
clock's
know,
ticking and you only have so much time to do shit. And it's like,
uh,
and not to like put this weird pressure on yourself about it, but to like look around and say, well, what's important and what am I going to do about it?
yeah. And I mean, you can view it as weird pressure for sure. And people might think it's macabre or whatever, but it's like, I don't know. You like you're gonna expire at some point.
Yeah.
Start getting toward the shit that you want to do, and the hopes that you get to live a nice, full, long life and get to do all the things you want to do. And because time goes by so fast.
Oh yeah.
Having a kid is not, oh my God, it feels like I hit a portal every day. But and anybody with busy lives or whatever, but a little kid is like this constant reminder. They get bigger, they change, whatever, about how much time has gone by. And it's like, shit, you can feel kind of like you're in this same place forever. And it's like, well, no, actually, time is speeding right by you. See that creature there? Like,
Yeah.
it's, gonna go on to do all these things and hit all these milestones. And if you're still in the same place, you might be, but time certainly is not. That's my constant reminder not to be old and decrepit.
Exactly.
Fuck.
Yeah. And you got to do something about it. And
I
then
fear it, actually. I fear being like old and incapable and
I
shit.
don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Ugh.
Because I certainly like you have so many glaring examples around you,
Yeah, all the time.
go to fucking Walmart, dude. You'll
And
see.
it's normalized. It's like,
Yeah.
well, you get old and
Well,
you're
you just
riding a
get old
fucking
and
jazzy and you just get
yeah.
fat as shit. And it's like, that scares the shit out of me.
And just listening to I mean, my girlfriend's she's currently a bedside nurse and just, talking to her every day on the way home from work about these people that she takes care of that just did not take care of themselves. And a lot of times they're not even that old, but
No,
they're just
60s,
so
70s.
sick. And it's like, so you can sit there and say, well, it's if I don't get this whole workout or I don't do all of this, and I was like, it's not worth it. Or you can realize that even just doing a little bit every day, like 20, making sure you at least get 20 minutes in and making sure you drink enough water and set those habits and then build on top of that. Like you have a way decreased chance of ending up being that person that is 70 years old and dependent on a nurse to wipe their ass for them, So like
It's a grim reality, but it's certainly not an uncommon one. And
yeah,
I can't tell you how many people I've same thing, and they're like, well, I never expected to live this long.
yeah, you said about that before.
Yeah, I think about that like almost every day. Like, so now it's like, well, can't do shit. I fucked up. Like I fucked up the whole time, and now this is what I'm left with.
Yeah.
That's got to be a horrible realization.
Yeah. Especially at the end of your life when you should be, you know, celebrating things that you've done, still doing the things that you love to the best of your ability,
Yeah, it's
being
like your
around,
victory lap.
yeah, being around people that you love, like being able to tell stories about the cool shit you did and still to experience that and teach the things that you learned. And
Yeah.
man, you can't do that shit if you're not if you because you're going to be so focused on your own well-being if you're sick that you can't
Oh,
be the contributor to society that you could be when you're old.
you're absolutely right. And the other thing is like when you're talking about this, like looking back at your life in this really positive way. So in this time now, moving forward through that, like let's not be fucking miserable and lament over these things that we want to do and never fucking do them.
Yeah.
Like just do a little bit and like enjoy yourself. Be happy that you're doing something that you want to do that's important to you. Like not this miserable negative thing with getting in shape and how hard it is, whatever. It's like you
Doesn't have
said,
to be.
yeah, you gave the example from, I think you said it was from BJ Fogg about flossing one tooth.
Yeah.
And it's like, don't tell me that you can't floss one tooth. like you're saying, you'd be surprised at how much time shows up or whatever. And it's like just just one small thing. Like everybody could do it. Like, but like you said, I don't know that they see the value, I guess, in it or understand that it is the path to where they want to go, is that just flossing that one tooth.
Yeah.
One damn tooth.
One tooth. Then you end up doing the whole mouth.
I love flossing, so that's not my problem. But
Does feel good.
I get shit for it. So
You get shit for flossing.
well, for my wife, because I'm like, do you got any flossers in here, like in her car? And she's like, no, that's not normal. And I'm like, yeah, I floss every day coming home. That's totally normal. It's fine. It's perfect time. I have time when I'm driving to floss. It's wonderful.
I want to tell you something gross.
Okay.
At least it's gross to me. One of my buddy's families, I don't know, this was years back, because his sister was still at home. It was before she moved away and got married. And I was there. We had just come in from fishing or something. And I saw his mom use a flosser. She put that flosser on the counter. And then not 10 minutes later, the sister picked it up and then used the same
Ooh.
flosser. And I was like, what is going on here? And she's like, what? Do you think that's gross? I was like, it's not that I think that it's gross. It's that I am certain that it's gross. Like, that is what
Yeah,
are you
that's
guys
pretty
doing?
gross.
They're cheap. They don't take up that much space when you throw them away. Like, we can.
No, I get them at the dollar store. Yeah, there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to recycle floss or share it with your family member. It's a one-time use thing.
Yeah.
But on the grand scale of gross,
I mean,
I
it's not
think it's
that
a minor
gross.
infraction
Sure,
on the grand
sure.
scale of gross.
Yeah, there are much grosser things, but
Mhm.
I was taken aback by these seemingly normal people that wouldn't do something like that. And I was like, what are you guys doing?
They're not normal.
I think
That's what you understood.
I think that's what we've learned.
Oh my God, there's so much more going on here. What else do you share and reuse?
I know, right?
Don't say toilet
gracious.
paper. Don't say it.
I think we're gonna stop now.
I think it's a good note to end on.
Yeah, let's stop. Don't share toilet paper, kids.